English Podcast.
From Language Web.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Language Web, the channel that helps you level up your English one conversation at a time.
And this is your go-to place for real, useful English, especially if you're preparing for the IELTS speaking test. I'm Maria.
And I'm Tom. Today, we're diving into a super interesting Part 3 IELTS topic, city life versus countryside life.
That's right. Whether you're a city lover or a country soul, this topic comes up a lot in IELTS exams, and it's packed with ideas to explore.
We'll break down some typical Part 3 questions, share sample answers, and give you vocabulary tips and speaking strategies to boost your confidence.
So grab a notebook, get comfortable, and let's get started.
All right, let's jump into Sample Dialogue 1, where I'll take on the role of a student answering typical IELTS Part 3 questions.
And I'll play the examiner and guide the questions. Remember, Part 3 is all about discussing abstract ideas and giving reasons, comparisons, and examples. So listen carefully to how ideas are expanded.
Here we go.
Let's talk about where people live. In your opinion, why do more people prefer to live in cities these days?
Well, I think many people choose to live in cities because of job opportunities and modern conveniences. Cities often offer better access to healthcare, education, and entertainment. For example, someone who works in finance or tech might need to be in a city where those industries are based.
Do you think the quality of life is better in the countryside or in the city?
That really depends on what someone values. In cities, life is more fast-paced, but you have everything nearby. On the other hand, the countryside offers peace and cleaner air, which can really improve mental and physical health. Personally, I think the countryside has a better quality of life if you're looking for a slower, more balanced lifestyle.
How do you think city living affects people's relationships and communities?
I'd say city life can sometimes make people feel more isolated, even though they're surrounded by others. Everyone's busy, and it's harder to form close relationships. In contrast, people in rural areas often have stronger community ties because they know their neighbors and support each other more closely.
Do you believe that cities will become more or less important in the future?
Interesting question. I think cities will still be important because they're centers of innovation and progress. However, with remote work becoming more common, some people might move to smaller towns or rural areas. So cities might stay important, but they may become less crowded as people seek a better work-life balance elsewhere.
Okay, let's break down what made that sample answer effective so you can apply the same strategies in your own speaking test.
All right. First up, let's talk about structure. A strong Part 3 answer usually has 3 parts: a clear introduction, some main details or reasons, and a short conclusion or personal view. I tried to follow that pattern in each answer.
Right, and structure makes it easier for the examiner to follow your ideas. Now let's look at some of the phrases Tom used that helped him sound natural and fluent.
I used expressions like, "That really depends on what someone values." Personally, I think. And "in contrast," to compare city and countryside life. These phrases are simple but super effective in making your answers feel smooth and well-organized.
Exactly. It's not about using fancy words. It's about using the right words naturally. Now, let's talk pronunciation. Did you hear how Tom linked words together?
Yeah. For example, instead of saying "on the other hand" word by word, I said it like "on the other hand," all connected and flowing. That's called connected speech, and it really helps your speaking sound more fluent.
And finally, let's talk about vocabulary. Avoid basic or repeated words. Instead of saying, "cities are dirty," Tom said,
Cities are often heavily polluted. See the difference? It's more academic and sounds better in the IELTS context.
Here's a quick upgrade list for you. Basic word, dirty. Better word, polluted. Quiet, peaceful or tranquil. Boring, monotonous. Jobs, employment opportunities.
Nice and easy to remember, right?
Definitely. So to wrap this up, focus on clear structure, natural linking phrases, fluent pronunciation, and strong topic-specific vocabulary.
If you keep practicing these 4 things, your speaking part 3 will really improve.
Nice work, Tom. That was a solid example of how to handle Part 3 questions naturally and clearly.
Thanks, Maria. And for our listeners, don't worry if your answers don't sound perfect yet. It's all about practice and learning how to structure your ideas.
Exactly. Now, let's dive into Sample Dialogue 2 with a fresh set of questions and a slightly different angle on city and countryside life.
As before, I'll be the student, and this time, listen out for some new vocabulary, opinion structures, and how to build a strong conclusion.
What are the main differences between city life and countryside life?
I'd say the biggest differences are in the pace of life, environment, and community interaction. City life is fast-paced and can feel overwhelming, while country life tends to be slower and more relaxed. Also, cities are more developed but also more polluted, whereas rural areas offer cleaner air and natural beauty. Finally, in the countryside, people usually have closer relationships with their neighbors.
Do you think it's better for children to grow up in the city or in the countryside?
That's a tough one. Cities offer more educational resources and extracurricular opportunities, which can be great for a child's development. But on the other hand, growing up in the countryside can teach children to appreciate nature and enjoy a more carefree childhood. I think the ideal environment depends on the family's values and what kind of balance they want.
How has technology changed rural life in recent years?
Technology has definitely made a big impact. With the internet and smartphones, even people in remote areas can access online education, e-commerce, and remote work. It has also helped improve farming methods and healthcare services. In a way, it's helping bridge the gap between rural and urban lifestyles.
Do you think governments should encourage people to move to the countryside?
Yes, especially to ease urban congestion and promote regional development. If governments invest in infrastructure like roads, schools, and hospitals in rural areas, more people might consider relocating. This would not only reduce pressure on cities, but also revitalize smaller towns.
All right, let's break down the second sample conversation and pull out the key things that made it work.
Yep, this one had a slightly different tone, but the principles are the same and super important if you want to boost your IELTS score.
First, let's talk about structure. In part 3, every strong answer needs a beginning, a middle, and an end. And that's exactly what Tom did.
Yeah, I started with a clear opinion, added supporting details, and finished with either a personal thought or a short summary.
So next time you're answering, ask yourself, did I answer the question? Did I explain why? Did I give an example or a comparison?
3 simple steps: intro, detail, and close. Super easy to practice.
Let's move on to some useful speaking phrases. Tom used great ones like, that's a tough one. On the other hand, it depends on the family's values.
These phrases show the examiner you're thinking in English, not just translating in your head.
And they give you a second to breathe, think, and stay in control of your answer.
Did you catch how I connected sounds naturally? For example, ease urban congestion. Revitalize smaller towns.
And the word stress makes your meaning clearer. For example, stressing words like educational resources or regional development helps the examiner understand what matters most in your answer.
So record yourself, play it back, and listen. Do you sound connected and confident?
All right, time for a quick vocab boost. Let's compare some common words with stronger alternatives from the dialogue. Basic word, good childhood. Stronger word, carefree childhood. Move to the city, relocate, or migrate. Fix problems, ease congestion, or improve conditions. Small town, rural area, or provincial region.
Using these words shows you have a wide range of vocabulary, and that's exactly what examiners want to hear in Band 7 and above.
To sum it all up, what did Tom do well? He followed a clear structure, used natural, flexible expressions, spoke fluently with good pronunciation, and upgraded his vocabulary for a more academic tone.
And you can do it too. Practice each skill step by step, and we promise it gets easier every time.
All right, it's time to put your speaking skills to the test.
This is practice time, where you get to try answering a Part 3 style IELTS question. Ready?
Here's your question. Why do some people prefer to live in the countryside even though cities have more facilities?
Take a moment to think about your answer. Remember, you can follow this simple structure. 1. State your opinion clearly. 2. Give a reason or two. 3. Add a quick example or personal connection. Now it's your turn. Pause the audio if you need more time, and go ahead, say your answer out loud.
Okay, let's hear a quick sample to compare. Here's one way you might answer.
I think some people prefer countryside life because it's quieter and less stressful. Even though cities have more services, the countryside offers a healthier environment and a slower pace of life. For example, my uncle moved to a small town to escape the noise of the city, and he says it's the best decision he's made.
See how that answer is simple, clear, and includes a reason and a short example.
Now it's your turn again. Let's try one more.
Here it is. How do people's housing preferences change as they get older?
Pause the episode and try answering out loud. Focus on explaining how preferences change and why.
Well done. Practicing this way builds your confidence and helps you speak more naturally under pressure.
And remember, don't worry about being perfect. Just keep practicing and you'll improve step by step.
All right, it's time for your listener challenge, your chance to take what you've learned and actually use it.
Here's your challenge question for today. Do you think more people will choose to live in rural areas in the future? Why or why not?
We want you to answer this question using the strategies we shared: clear opinion, at least one reason, and a quick example or explanation.
You can practice out loud, write it down, or even better, record yourself and listen back. If you're feeling brave, share your answer in the comments. We'd love to hear how you're doing.
And remember, consistency is key. Even just 5 minutes of speaking practice a day makes a huge difference over time.
If you enjoyed this episode and found it helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a lesson.
Thanks for learning with us today on Language Web, where English connects you to the world.
Until next time, keep practicing, stay confident, and keep growing.